Emily Carter had once lived in a world filled with warmth. Born and raised in Chicago, her earliest memories were of the sweet smell of cinnamon rolls wafting from her mother Grace's tiny home bakery. Grace would call her my little storyteller because Emily, even at 8 years old, loved to spin bedtime tales for her dolls and cousins. Her father, David Carter, was a hardworking salesman, often away for work, but he never missed a chance to bring home small gifts for his daughter. But when Emily turned 12, her perfect little world collapsed. Grace fell sick. At first, everyone thought it was nothing serious, just fatigue from long hours in the kitchen. But Emily noticed the growing weakness in her mother's hands, the way her laugh grew quieter each day. She prayed every night, begging God to heal her mother. But one chilly October morning, her father held her tight and whispered the words that shattered her world. "Sweetheart, your mom's gone to be with God." Emily's heart broke. Her father gave her Grace's silver locket, telling her to keep it close always. Emily pressed it to her chest, tears soaking into her shirt. The little apartment, once filled with laughter, now echoed with silence. For months, David tried to balance grief and work, but relatives soon pressed him with advice. Emily needed a woman's guidance. She was still a child, someone had to help her through the years ahead. Against his better judgment, David eventually remarried. His new wife, Linda, was young, beautiful, and sweet-tongued. She seemed caring at first, bringing Emily small gifts and calling her Sweet Pea. But the sweetness was only for show. When David was home, Linda acted like the perfect stepmother, smiling, asking Emily about her day, serving her dinner with warmth. But whenever he traveled for business, her mask slipped. She ordered Emily around, scolded her for the smallest mistakes, and made her feel like an intruder in her own home. One evening, Emily brought back the wrong kind of bread from the corner store. Linda's hand struck her cheek so hard it burned. Emily gasped, tears rushing down her face, but Linda only leaned close and hissed, "Don't you dare tell your father. He'll never believe you anyway." Emily learned to hide her pain. In front of her father, she smiled, but behind closed doors she felt trapped in a nightmare. At 16, Emily's world grew darker. One afternoon, Linda sent her to the market with a long list. Afraid of being scolded if she returned late, Emily rushed. On her way back, she caught a ride on an old motorcycle to save time. Just a few blocks from home, a truck swerved suddenly. The rider lost control, and in seconds Emily was thrown onto the hard asphalt. Pain seared through her leg. Strangers rushed to help, but by the time her stepmother arrived at the hospital, Emily was unconscious. Doctors operated on her leg, but when Emily awoke, she was told she might never walk normally again. She would need crutches, maybe for life. That night, Linda leaned over her hospital bed. Her voice was cold, sharp, nothing like the fake tenderness she showed her father. "Don't you dare tell him I sent you to the market that day," she warned. "If you do, you'll regret it for the rest of your life." Terrified, Emily nodded. From then on, she carried both physical pain and the crushing weight of silence. Months later, David traveled again for work. It was then Linda struck her cruelest blow. She accused Emily of stealing money from her purse, a lie. Before Emily could defend herself, Linda gathered her belongings, tossed her crutches and clothes out the front door, and shouted, "Get out! I won't live with a thief. Don't ever come back." 17 years old, weak and heartbroken, Emily found herself abandoned on the streets of Chicago. She had no one to turn to, nowhere to sleep. Clutching her worn backpack and her most precious possession, her writing journal, she wandered the city. Nights were spent on park benches, in bus stations, or curled up in alleys. Hunger gnawed at her stomach, but whenever despair threatened to swallow her, Emily opened her journal and wrote. She poured her pain into poems and short stories, tales of girls who had lost everything but found hope again. Writing became her lifeline. One windy afternoon, Emily sat on the curb outside a diner, scribbling in her journal. A sudden gust of wind tore the pages from her hands, scattering them across the street. Panicked, Emily scrambled after them, ignoring the blaring horns. A sleek black car screeched to a stop inches from her. The driver jumped out, followed by a tall man in a sharp suit. He bent down, picked up a page, and froze. It wasn't just random scribbles. It was a story. A heartbreaking story written in careful, emotional words. The man glanced at Emily. "Did you write this?" Emily nodded, embarrassed. "It's just something I do to forget things." But the man didn't hand the page back right away. He read a few lines, his brow furrowed. Then he looked at her again. "This isn't just writing. This is a voice. My name's Michael Reynolds. I run one of the biggest publishing houses in the city, and I think you have something special." Emily's heart pounded. Could this stranger really mean it? She wanted to refuse, afraid it was a cruel trick. But there was something in his eyes. Sincerity, not pity. Michael handed her his card. "Come by my office. Bring the rest of your journal. If your other pages are half as good as this, I promise you, the world will hear your words." For the first time in years, Emily felt a spark of hope. The next morning, with trembling hands, she walked into Reynolds Publishing. Nervous, she showed Michael her journal filled with stories and poems. As he read, silence filled the office. Finally, he looked up, his eyes shining. "Emily, these aren't just stories. They're survival. They're truth. And people need to hear them." Within months, her first book, The Girl with the Broken Shoes, was released. To Emily's shock, it became a sensation. Readers connected deeply with her words. Letters poured in from strangers saying her stories gave them hope through their own hardships. Emily Carter, the abandoned stepdaughter once thrown into the streets, was now being called the voice of resilience. Meanwhile, David Carter returned from his travels only to be told by Linda that Emily had run away. He believed her lies, though doubt gnawed at his heart. Years passed. Linda gave birth to a son, but cracks soon appeared in her perfect image. One day, David discovered messages on her phone, messages proving she had been unfaithful for years. Worse still, the child he thought was his wasn't. The betrayal shattered him. Divorce followed, leaving him broken and alone. It was then, in his loneliness, that he stumbled upon a news broadcast about an author taking the literary world by storm, Emily Carter. David froze, tears flooding his eyes. His daughter, the little girl he had failed to protect. She was alive and thriving. David tracked her to a crowded book signing in downtown Chicago. Nervously, he waited in line with fans holding copies of her best-selling novel. When it was finally his turn, Emily looked up from her signing desk and froze. "Dad," she whispered. The years melted away in an instant. David dropped to his knees, weeping openly. "Emily, I failed you. I let lies blind me. I should have fought for you, protected you. I don't deserve it, but please, please forgive me." Emily's heart ached. Memories of her pain flashed before her eyes, but so did memories of his love before Linda entered their lives. Tears blurred her vision as she rose unsteadily and embraced him. "I forgive you, Dad. I've been waiting so long to hear those words." The crowd around them cheered, many moved to tears. Emily's career soared. She continued to write stories that touched hearts across the nation. With Michael Reynolds by her side, who had become more than just her mentor, Emily discovered not only success, but love. Years later, at a quiet gathering with family and friends, Michael proposed, and Emily said yes with joyful tears in her eyes. As she walked down the aisle with her father proudly escorting her, Emily realized her story had come full circle. She had lost everything once, but through courage, forgiveness, and the power of words, she had gained even more. Emily Carter's life became proof that no pain is wasted. Every heartbreak she endured became ink on her pages. Every betrayal became fuel for her resilience. Her story teaches us that dreams don't die in the face of suffering. They are born from it. And above all, forgiveness has the power to heal what once felt impossible.